depressing. But if the whole church was full and filled and overflowing, it's like, whoa, I'm something now. Isn't that how people feel their value? And I've got no control over it. Because if no one turns up, I feel terrible. If everyone turns up, I feel great. And you just go on this seesaw in life of being valued, and then no one values you, and you've got to work really hard to get valued again. And life can get really depressing and hard work. You know, if they took you to work out how much you are worth and said, well, let's boil you up and see how many chemicals we can get out of you and try and sell you, you'd only be worth a few dollars. I'm not sure how many bars of soap they could make out of me. But as a physical being, we're really not worth that much, which can be a little bit depressing, so don't think about that thought too much. But how much are we worth? You know, for some people, huge governments who go out and fight wars, they don't think much about people. They say they're soldiers, they're there to do a job, and some of them are going to die. That's just normal. But where does our true value come from? Now think with me. Imagine that you are someone who can really paint well. Now I'm just trying to think of an artist off the top of my head, but I'm not very much into the artistic world. Was that Galileo? Leonardo. Okay, you're Leonardo da Vinci. And you could, you know, sketch paintings really well that everyone sort of loved. Now, who places the value on that painting that you made? Ultimately, who decides how much it is worth? You do. Because in the end, everyone else can argue how much it's worth, but you decide how much you're going to sell it for, right? The creator of that painting is the one who decides how much it is worth and chooses how much they want to sell it for. Well, who made you? God did. How much do you think God thinks you're worth? Let's find out. There's only one way to find out. Look at the source here. We have a look at 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 20. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 20. For you, put your name in there, for you were bought at a price. Therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. You were bought with a price. Now, who's this talking about? Us. Is this also talking about the person who just hasn't amounted to anything in life and who drinks his life away because of his problems and miseries? Is this talking about the rich millionaire out there who has everything? This is talking about every single human being, because when it comes to God, we're like all stripped down and naked in front of God, and God sees us with the same value. It doesn't matter what you've accomplished in life. It doesn't matter how much power you have on this world. In God's sight, everyone is equal, of equal value. What price did God pay? You know, in the old days, when in the Israelite times, if you went into debt and couldn't pay that debt, you always had an option to sell yourself and your family as slaves, and with that money be able to pay off your debts. I guess a lot of times it wasn't something that you voluntarily did. I guess you were more forced into to pay off your debts. Now, if a rich relative saw your position as a slave now, he could decide to pay that debt, pay for your freedom, And that was called redemption. That rich relative could actually redeem you, pay for your freedom. And that's what it says here in 1 Peter chapter 1 and verse 18 and 19. Knowing that you were not redeemed with corruptible things like silver or gold from your aimless conduct received by the tradition from your fathers. Let's stop there at that verse. Don't jump to the next one. You know, it's really strange, but people think that gold is worth so much. I can just imagine God sort of standing up here asking the question, saying, okay, all you people out there, how much do you think Michael is worth? Now, hopefully, some of you more generous people will say, $1 million, $1 million. And we'll convert it into gold. A couple of kilos of gold. I'm not sure how much millions of dollars that'll make. And God looks at the gold and God looks at me. No. 2 million? No. Or maybe he's worth 50 million. No. What do you think, Mozanne? Priceless in God's eyes. You're jumping ahead of the illustration. $1 billion? No. Because God says, have a look. That gold there, all it is cold, heavy, shiny stuff. That's all it is. Isn't it? But here, my child, Michael, he's not cold, dead and shiny. He is living. He is a creation. He's so much more complicated and beautiful than that piece of rock. No gold in the whole world, not every little bit of gold collected in this entire planet is enough to compare with my value. But what does God say? Verse 19, but with the precious blood of Christ as a lamb without blemish and without spot. That is the price God redeemed you from slavery. The life of the Son of God. Did you get that? That is your worth. When someone asks you the question, how much am I worth? You are worth the life of the Son of God. Not sure if I'm getting through. How do I explain it? Imagine that, this isn't a good illustration because it's on the top of my head, but you're swimming away in the ocean and you're starting to drown. And then for some unknown reason, a helicopter comes overhead and there's the Queen of England in there saying, Mike, I'm going to save you. The Queen of England jumps into the water and I'm just about ready to go under. She grabs me, lifts me up, and they get a thing around me so they can hoist me up into the helicopter. But by the time they go down to pick up the Queen of England, she's gone. And then someone says to you, do you know how much your life is worth? Your life is worth the life of the Queen of England. Wow. She thought that you were important enough to give her life to. And yet on an infinitely greater level, God looked at you, his creation, and said, I am willing to die that you might have life. Oh, please meditate on those thoughts because it is hard to sink into our brain. You know, it's like the story of this boy who was a really creative guy. He's like my eldest brother, Frank. He was really practical. He made a boat out of wood, got the hammer and chisel out, got a nice piece of wood, hammered it out, put a sail in it, drilled holes. It was a beautiful creation. And then he had to test it out. I mean, what's the